More loudly. Welcome, everybody. Shalom, and thank you for joining us for this Zoom on this very somber day. Uh, I hope that we will make it a little cheerier for you with Nadia's news. Helene, would you like to talk a little bit about what's going on today?
It's Yom HaShoah. So one of the things that I always like to remind people is that Israel has 2 days of remembrance. Yom HaShoah today is the memorial for the Shoah, for the Holocaust, where we lost at least 6 million, 1.5 million children perished that we know of. There may well be many more because they continue to find records. So Israel has 2 dates. This was instituted by Rabbi Lau early on, and who was the chief rabbi of Israel. And this day is what happens to Jews when there is no Israel. And so next week we will be remembering on Yom HaZikaron what it took to become an Israel. And so that's about all I got. So it's a bit of a somber day, but thank you for joining us today, and I look forward to hearing what Nadia has to say.
So thank you, Helene Fragman Abramson, for always supporting and helping with these Zoom programs. And thank you, Eileen, for your help behind the scenes. And before we welcome our special guest today, I'd like to say a word about the World Zionist Congress elections, which are coming to an end on May 4th. AFSI is running with the ZOA coalition, which is composed of over 30 very strong Zionist organizations in America. Of course, I would like you to vote for Slate 15. But whether you vote for 15 or another pro-sovereignty slate, you must vote. If you have any questions on how to go about it, please email me, judy@afc.org, with your phone number, and I will get back to you to answer any questions. Now to our main event. Nadia Matar was born in Antwerp, Belgium, and made aliyah to Israel alone at the age of 18 in 1984. She lives in Gush Etzion with her large and always growing family. Yehudit Katsover and Nadia Matar are the founders and driving force behind the sovereignty movement in Israel, which is dedicated to safeguarding our God-given biblical homeland. They act out of the belief in the central role of the land of Israel to the future of the Jewish people. Eretz Yisrael Le'Am Yisrael. The land of Israel belongs to the people of Israel, is their motto. On a personal note, I remember the beginnings, I think, of the sovereignty movement. I was in Israel with my mom, Helen Friedman, Zichron Livracha. It was 2011 or 12, and we got a call from Nadia. She and Yehudit were in a nearby hotel strategizing how to begin a movement for sovereignty in Judea and Samaria. They are master strategizers. And they asked my mom to join them. So we went over to the hotel and I watched as Yehudit and Nadia outlined their ideas. My mom gave a resounding approval. Whether that spurred them on, I'm not sure. But the sovereignty movement was born and it has blossomed into what we all hope will soon be a reality. AFSI has also taken on the call for sovereignty, and we visit with Yehudit and Nadia at Ozgal Nature Preserves every time we travel with a Chazuk mission to Israel. Our next mission is coming up soon, and this time next month, we'll be sitting with that dynamic duo and getting an update on all their activities. In 2019, Yehudit and Nadia were recipients of the Moskowitz Prize for Zionism's Lion of Zion Award. The Women in Green, an Israeli grassroots movement, is a diverse group of people united by their love of Israel. Co-chairs Yehudit Katsover and Nadia Matar, who also founded the sovereignty movement, are dedicated to protecting Israel. They are true heroines of Israel, and we are delighted to have Nadia, who has stronger English, with us today. Welcome, Nadia.
Thank you, Judy. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Helene. I can't see on the screen everybody, so afterwards, maybe we'll talk more personally. It's great to see you. It's great to look. We're looking forward to meet you in a few weeks. As you know, as you said yourself, you only see me on the screen, but I'm also speaking on behalf of Yehudit Katsover, whom I've had the privilege of learning from, being her student, as I call it, since I met her in Gush Katif, during our shared struggle to stop the terrible crime of Jews expelling Jews from Gaza, a struggle that AFSI was part of too, obviously, with our dear Helen, and we remember her there, and all of you there also. And everything I will say now about sovereignty and the need for sovereignty comes from the understanding that we got in Gush Katif at the expulsion, that settlement alone is not enough. Yehudit recognized this right after we came back, when we started struggling in Judea and Samaria for different hills. And again, Helen and all of after you were with us, a hill here, a hill there, that the Arabs were trying to take over under the battle for Area C. And I will never forget, if you guys Google Afsi and Netzer, the words Afsi, Netzer, Helen Friedman, you'll see an amazing video of a time that you guys came to plant with us, and Helen was with us, and it was raining, and we planted trees in the mud, in the rain, and the Arabs came, and it was a whole thing. And we were busy also with settlements. And in 2011, Yehudit recognized that it's not enough. Because to save the settlement enterprise, because as she said, in Gush Katif, it took the IDF only 6 days to uproot all of us and destroy all the communities. Why? Because there was no sovereignty. Not everybody even knows. That's why I'm not talking about that to AFSI, because you do know. But when you talk to people, sometimes they don't even know that there's no Israeli sovereignty in Judea and Samaria and the Jordan Valley. Meaning, some people say, what does that mean? And they don't know that after 67, the Israeli government didn't know what to do with the victory and did not apply sovereignty, and left the area in a limbo, created a part of the army, a civil administration to administer those areas. And only thanks to heroes like Rabbi Levinger Zatzal and Rabbi Hanan Porat, etc., and this whole group of people who saw that the government was stuttering and didn't know what to do with the victory, they started saying, we have to create Jewish communities, we have to come back here. And thanks to them, there's 500,000 Jews in Judea and Samaria, and you guys in AFSI know that. You visit everybody, you visit all those heroes, but there's still no sovereignty. And we understood that if we wish to protect the settlement enterprise, it must go hand in hand with sovereignty. Because as long as sovereignty is absent, what is the message Israel passes on to the world? And perhaps to itself, who knows, as not us, but the government. I'm not sure that this land is really mine forever. That's the message you pass on if you don't apply sovereignty. You AFSI friends, you know as well as we do, but it must be said loud and clear that the terrible reality we face today is a direct result of that expulsion. And not only from that expulsion, there is a clear and direct line from the Oslo Accords to the Gush Katif evacuation and to the atrocities of October 7th. And maybe we should even say that it started before Oslo. I am daring to say, I'm trying to say, that maybe it started when Moshe Dayan, after Mamash at the end of the 6-day victory, when we already were on the Temple Mount and the Israeli flag was on the Temple Mount, and what did he do? He took off the flag. He brought down the flag and gave the keys back to the Waqf. That's where it all started. To go back to Gush Katif, I remember that moment when the soldiers had to lift us, to place us on the buses, because we told them, we are not leaving willingly. You will have to carry us. And we cried together with the soldiers in that surreal, insane situation. And we warned them, we told them, you will see, we will have to return, because it's clear only terror can grow from this. We knew already then that the expulsion would cost many Jewish lives. We didn't know how many, unfortunately. And we knew that we will have to return, not just physically, but as sovereigns. I recently read an article that put it well, talked about, everybody talks about the Qatari money to Hamas, which is, of course, horrendous. But it's not the money that enabled them to do their terror. Before the money is the fact that they had a Jew-free area from which to plan their atrocities. meaning the moment we gave up on parts of our homeland and we gave them that, they all of a sudden had carte blanche, as we say in French. How do you say that in English? A green light. They had a green light to do whatever they want, i.e. Israeli control or Israeli sovereignty over its land is the key to defeating terror. Every time Israel gives up land, it not only, of course, gives up its biblical heartland and all the biblical reasons, but it simply invites terror with its own hands. And that's exactly what happened. So you spoke about Holocaust Remembrance Day, which we are now here in Israel almost finishing. It's the end of the day already. And the whole day we heard one thing: never again, never again. That's the slogan, right? What does that really mean? There's a journalist called Elchanan Gruner from Hakol Yehudi. That's the name of their radio. And he put it very clearly, and I translated what he wrote today on Holocaust Remembrance Days. Here is the quote, I quote, "Hundreds of people who are responsible for what happened to us a year and a half ago stand today in suits, in fancy suits, at various ceremonies today, speaking with great pathos about never again. All the while, the centers of Islamist Nazi power that they created or that they allowed to grow are still being nurtured. Weapons are being oiled, knives are being sharpened in preparation for the next massacre, God forbid, of Jews, God forbid. Never again, they shout," he continues, I'm still quoting. "But in the fine print, they only mean Hamas, not the so-called moderate Palestinian Authority with its tens of thousands of fighters, terrorists, and weapons aimed at destroying Israel. And what about the Israeli Arab members of Knesset, who are the twins of Hamas? What about the thousands of illegal weapons in Arab hands from the sea to the Jordan? If we truly want never again, we must wake up." End of quote by Elchanan Gruner. And indeed, the wake-up call is to ask ourselves in these days, we call them Aseret Yemei HaTshuva, those 10 days, the days of redemption, from today, Holocaust Memorial Day, through Memorial Day for the fallen soldiers next week, which followed immediately by Independence Day. We must ask ourselves, have we really learned our lesson? And we in the sovereignty movement believe that the answer or the wake-up call that we got a year and a half ago lies really in one word. It happens to be the word sovereignty. Before we discuss the legal or political dimensions of sovereignty, we must understand what it truly means to be a sovereign people in our land. Sovereignty begins in the mind. It's the awareness that this is our land, not by chance, not by force, not because of the Holocaust, but by right. It's ours, a historical right, a moral right, a divine right. When we have the pasuk, when we have the verse in Genesis, "And I will give to you and your descendants after you the land of your sojourning, all the land of Canaan, as an everlasting possession," it's a divine promise. It's not just an ancient document. It's the foundation of our existence here. And a sovereign nation does not apologize for its existence. A sovereign nation doesn't agree to uproot its brothers from its land. A sovereign nation doesn't give humanitarian, so-called humanitarian aid to terrorists. A sovereign nation knows that this land was given to us as an eternal promise and should behave like a sovereign nation. To be a sovereign means to believe in the justice of our cause, to know that the other side, whether openly hostile or cloaked in words of peace, that does not really want peace. Their worldview is built on a historical lie, and we must confront that lie with faith and courage. And here I'm going to show you something. Maybe I showed it to you already. I show it all the time. We speak, Yehudit and I, to a lot of Israeli children. They come to us Vegaon in the framework of a mechina. You know, mechina is the pre-military one-year program. When they finish high school, some of them go to a mechina for a year, and then they go to the army. And under the framework of the mechina, every mechina is obligated to come to Judea and Samaria and to hold something that is called Shavua Yehuda v'Shomron, a week of Judea and Samaria, in which they come to hear the different opinions about Judea and Samaria. they hear Yehudit and Nadia about, of course, the right-wing position, about sovereignty and no to a Palestinian state. And an hour later, they go down to Tel Aviv and they hear peace now, and they hear Arabs, all kind of different opinions. And I always like to say to them a few things. The first thing I say to them, what is this week of Mechina? Like, do you have a situation where how come you have a week of Mechina where you discuss what should be done with Judea and Samaria? Do you have a week of Mechina that you also have to discuss what to do with Ramat Gan? Shall we give Ramat Gan away or should we not? So they laugh. And I say, why is there, how have we come up to the situation where you have to be obligated to listen to different opinions about what to do with Judea and Samaria? And then, of course, I tell them, which I don't have to tell you, Afsi friends, the whole story about the fact that there is no sovereignty, etc. And i.e., because there is no sovereignty, there is a question mark about the area. Who does this belong to? Even though there's 500,000 Jews who live there. And so they understand that and says, because there is sovereignty, when you don't say that something is yours, what's going to happen? And I always give them a little bit of a childish example, but I say, I take my cell phone and I show them. I said, if I throw my cell phone now in the street, you see that it's my cell phone. I know it's my cell phone, but you're going to go away. And what's going to happen? Somebody's going to come and say, oh, it's my cell phone. It was my great-grandfather's cell phone. What happened because we didn't apply sovereignty? We explained to the youth. Somebody else came in and says, it's really ours. And then I come and I show them and I say, oh, really the conflict about what's going on here is between two books. It's a little bit of a provocation, a little bit provocative, but that wakes them up also. And I show them two books. I show them the Bible. Can you see this? Can you see it you see them, the Bible, right? Our Bible. And I show them, this is our Bible, our Tanakh. And we have a lot of non-religious people. I said, you don't have to be Shabbat, Shomer Shabbat, or kosher to believe that the Tanakh, which is the Bible, is our mandate. Even Ben Gurion, who did not keep kosher, who did not keep Shabbat, he said it himself. The Tanakh is our mandate to the land of Israel. So the battle is between two books, this book, and then I bring this book, which is, I don't know, Judy, if you ever saw this already, was written by a creative, a little bit of a satirical person, Asaf Vol, A History of the Palestinian People. Can you see it? From ancient times to modern era, and I open it, 100 white pages. So they all start laughing, and I even say it was translated into Hebrew too, meaning here is a history of the Palestinian people from ancient times to the modern era, 100 white pages. There is no such history of a Palestinian people because the Palestinian people is an invention, right? And again, to Afsi, I don't have to explain that because we all know that this is a people that has been invented. There is no Palestinian people. There's Arabs. There's the Arab nation. But there's no Palestinian people with a king or with his history or with archaeology. It's all an invention. So when I bring this and I show them, they all laugh. They think it's funny or they think they're a little embarrassed. But then I raise both books and I say, you know what? I don't laugh anymore. You know why I don't laugh anymore? And it's not funny at all. And I asked the people who are in the class there in Osvegan, I says, who does the world believe to? Who does the world believe? This or this? The truth or the lie? And everybody says, they believe this. And I say to them, why? How did they succeed to push forward their lie? Very simple. They say it's all ours. The world meets two kinds of people. Those Arabs were saying, we took their land and Palestine, etc. And then they meet Jews who say, well, I'm willing to divide my land. I'm willing to give away part of my homeland to create another country. I'm willing to even give parts of my capital away for peace. I'm even willing to uproot my brothers from Gush Katif. Somebody normal will look at those two kinds of people and say, well, obviously, if he's willing to give away and to divide, etc., it obviously is not his. So that is the message. The message is that to be sovereign, to correct this terrible thing that happened over so many years, is to say, no, this is finished. It's all ours. It's ours. So that is, first of all, sovereignty in the consciousness, to talk like a sovereign nation. It's all ours. There's not going to be a Palestinian state. You don't have any right to our land. But of course, sovereignty is not only in the consciousness. It's not just a feeling. It comes with responsibility. It demands policy. If this is our land, we must act like it. This means applying Israeli law to all places, Judea, Samaria, to all places that still don't have sovereignty. Judea, Samaria, the Jordan Valley. Some people ask us, what does it mean to apply Israeli law? It's just a vote, or in the Knesset, or in the government. That's all we need. It takes 3 seconds. But obviously, you need to convince the politicians that they should submit the law, and then they need to vote for it. And we need to have our prime minister agreeing to bring it up to a vote. That's the whole essence of application of Israeli law. And we have to explain that this is not an act of conquest, but of return. It's not an act of superiority, but of connection. Sovereignty is not the use of force. It's the expression of an unshakable identity. David Ben-Gurion said it very nicely. Without deep attachment, I quote, without love, without a sense of inner belonging, a nation cannot survive in its land. So now let's get to the main question. I mean, you guys know what the main question is, right? Why hasn't sovereignty been applied yet? It has been applied in the Golan Heights. It was much easier, even though there was a battle too. But what was the difference? What is there not in the Golan Heights that there is in Judea and Samaria? Arabs. That's the question. The million-dollar question is, the question we hear again and again, and rightly so. If Israel applies full sovereignty over Judea and Samaria, what happens to the Arab population living there? That's the question, right? I had a debate with one of the heads of Peace Now a few years ago, and I told him, if there were no Arabs in Judea and Samaria, you wouldn't be promoting for a Palestinian state, meaning that is the core question of the sovereignty. What will happen, or what should be done with the 1.8 million Arabs? Up until recently, there were many different plans in the sovereignty movement. When we started the sovereignty movement in 2011, again, with Yehudit being the one who thought about the need to do so, we decided as the sovereignty movement to give a platform to everyone. That's how we started. In our journal, I even think that even Helen wrote an article at the very beginning of the journal, probably, I'm sure it was. And there were different opinions. There was, if you remember of blessed memory, Eliakim Ha'etzni, who was calling for sovereignty, but to create, with autonomy. And you had those who said, we should not have sovereignty over A and B because we don't want to get involved with the, oh, it was Naftali Bennett. He said, let's do sovereignty only over Area C. So we told them, but what's going to be with A and B? Then you're basically creating a Palestinian state. Many different plans. Things changed recently, thanks to the fact that President Trump came to power. And I'll be very upfront. Two things changed. Of course, October 7th, first of all, and then today, President Trump. If some of us till October 7th we all understood that we can't give them citizenship. That's clear. We can't give 1.8 million Arab citizenship because then you're going to shoot yourself in the foot. You're going to basically give almost 2 million people the tools to destroy the state of Israel as a Jewish state through the Knesset. So citizenship is a no-no. Everybody understands that. So then we used to talk before October 7th, I'll be very upfront, even Yehudit and I, maybe we should think about residency. You know what the difference is between residency and citizenship. Residency is like in Yerushalayim. In Yerushalayim, you have 300,000 Arabs who are residents but not citizens, i.e. they can't vote in the Knesset. But something happened on October 7th. What we have learned since October 7th is that coexistence is impossible. Even in places where it seemed possible, thousands of Arabs went out to celebrate the massacre, or supported it, or remained silent. Surveys after the massacre show that over 80% of Arabs in Judea and Samaria supported the Hamas massacre. I'm going to give them residency? No way. How can I do that? This is not a population seeking peace. but they are part of an integral part of the conflict. This is not a human rights issue because people are saying, what, you're not going to give them residency or citizenship? Human rights, human rights. No, this is they are a national security threat. And in light of this, the return of President Trump to office gives us the direction of what should be done. Relocation. That is a voluntary transfer of population to other countries. Now we are allowed to talk about it. If some years ago we weren't allowed to even mention it for fear of being accused of I don't know what, now that President Trump has basically normalized, if that is an English word, the word of relocation, we can start talking about it. At least the 80% of Arabs who were in favor of the massacre, I can't have them live with us next door. There are many countries they can go to, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, France, who knows, other willing partners. It's a historic opportunity that we are into, but we have to promote it. We have to also explain it, do hasbara. Relocation is not forced expulsion. It's a diplomatic process, consensual. It offers the individuals a future somewhere else with financial compensation, of course, opportunities. We'll have international cooperation. It will bring regional stability. When a hostile population is removed, the security threat decreases. Jewish communities will be able to thrive. So it doesn't have to be forced. Many countries have realized that not all populations can live together in peace, and it has happened over history. There's many examples, and no need to start giving many examples that happened. So sovereignty combined with a brave political solution like relocation and with aliyah. We will have to have another million Jews, and they are in France and many other countries who are willing to do aliyah, but Israel has to promote aliyah. Israel has to make it more easy. We hear about so many people Jews from France who want to come, and there's such a lot of bureaucratic problems. We have to take away those problems and allow more Jews to come in a more easy way. So sovereignty combined with a brave political solution, one that dares to confront harsh truths, is the real hope for a better future here. No more Oslo mentality, no more appeasement of an enemy bent on our destruction, but the building of a new reality, secure, Jewish, sovereign. I'll conclude with saying that on this upcoming Independence Day, Yom HaAtzmaut, as we will stand the day before Yom HaAtzmaut in silence to remember the fallen and the many fallen over the past 2 years also, we must lift our heads in pride at our people's return to its land. We have to be proud of our youth who rose up like lions. Yes, there was a 17-hour mini Shoah a year and a half ago, but afterwards the people rose up and fought. And we have to remember, independence is not just celebrating and having a barbecue. It is a calling to choose the truth, to call in God's name, and to say to the world, we are here by right, with faith, in sovereignty. And as the verse in Deuteronomy says, and you shall come into the land which the Lord your God gives you, and you shall possess it and dwell in it. It's an eternal command, not a privilege. It's a mission we have, a privilege that we have. It's the privilege that we live in this generation, that we can have this mission. If we can stand firm in this identity, we will ensure a future that is safe, proud, and just for the next generation, because a people who believes in its right and chooses to be sovereign cannot be defeated. Thank you very much. Questions?
Thank you so much, Nadia. That was really wonderful. AFC's chairman of the board would like to speak with you and with the group.
Shalom, shalom.
It's Moshe
It's
Phillips.
an honor to meet you.
Nadia, it's great to meet you.
Online.
It's great to meet you. Thanks so much, Judy, and thanks for everyone for joining, and thanks for everyone behind the scenes putting the call together. Really appreciate it. I did mention earlier in the chat that your support is more than welcome of AFC. If you're on this call, please consider making a donation, going to our website. It's an easy form to fill out and give us a donation. Nadia, I had to hop off for a second to speak to my son who's in Israel right now. So if I missed this, I apologize. But if you could just give us a quick idea of the difference between annexation and sovereignty.
Annexation is the wrong term, as Caroline Glick has written in her book also. In the Golan, it was annexation. Annexation is when you take land that what didn't belong to you, but officially. But sovereignty, the application of Israeli sovereignty, is what has to be done in Judea and Samaria, because according to the San Remo Conference and the Declaration of San Remo, and you can look it up, we have the right to that area since then, 1920. And therefore, there's no need for annexation. There's only need to apply Israeli law. I forgot to translate I should have done that, and I will send it to you, Moshe. There is a special, how do you call it, a law that explains that after that was declared after 67, that basically tells the government that whatever area they declare sovereignty over it, even according to international law, etc., it's ours. But we have to declare it. The problem was that after 67, the government of Israel, instead of applying Israeli law, which they could have done, and the world would have accepted it, but because they didn't plan, they didn't even think about the option of returning to those areas. You know that many people don't know that in preparation to the war that was going to happen, which afterwards was called the 6-Day War, you know how the government of Israel prepared itself? They dug 20,000 graves. I guess I assume that you know that, but the youth we speak to never know that. They open their eyes. What? Israel prepared and dug 20,000 graves in preparation for the massacre and the end of the state of Israel. That was the frame of mind. There was no planning at all of victory. It was it was a godly miracle. As believing Jews, we know it was a godly miracle. When I speak to secular groups, you can call it a military miracle if they want to. And a few weeks ago, I spoke to a group, and I remember he was sitting just in front of me, and I was telling them, he says, well, yeah, my grandfather told me that he was one of the people who dug graves in preparation for the 6-Day War. So when the frame of mind was that, after the war, they were so shocked, and they kept in power the British law, the Ottoman law, instead of applying Israeli law. But all they need to do now is, and over Jerusalem, they did apply sovereignty, and it went through with no problem, Baruch Hashem. And now we have to do it to the rest of Judea, Samaria, and the Jordan Valley.
Thanks so much, Nadia.
Okay, thank you, Moshe. We have a question from Martin Wasserman, really interesting one. Where does the principal opposition to sovereignty come from? Is it powers like the US? Is it Arab and Muslim states, Israeli politicians who are disconnected from their heritage? How can we overcome these different oppositions?
In the end, well, obviously the opposition comes from abroad, but one thing is I learned in psychology, people respect you if you respect yourself. If the Israeli government will say, this is what we want, then the world will have to adjust. As Ben-Gurion said himself, it's not what the Gentiles do, it's what it's what the Jewish people has to do. So the main opposition in Israel is fear, I think, by the different governments of what will America say, what will the world say. And now we have come to a historical moment where that fear, we don't need to have that fear anymore, because we have an American administration who basically says what Israel does, we will respect, and they're friends. And this is the time, meaning under Biden, Bibi Netanyahu had to, be very careful. I personally believe that they should have done it even under Biden. But let's say you waited for a better U.S. administration. We know that Prime Minister Netanyahu doesn't do things without the U.S. support. Yalla, as we say, yalla. Now there's no excuse. There's no excuse. No excuse whatsoever. We have to do it. Behind the scenes, I'm telling you that the conservative movement, we're very involved now in the Knesset, because in the end, it's the Knesset that decides. But the Knesset only, Yehudit always says, the politician works from down up. they have to feel the pressure. So we go to the Knesset all the time, and maybe when you come, you should also meet with Knesset members and tell them why is there not sovereignty yet, and to pressure. They have to have pressure all the time, and please God, we'll succeed in doing so. We have 1 year. What's 1 year? In 1 year and a few months, there will be elections in Israel. The moment there's elections, people think only about that. So those are crucial months. We can't even go to sleep. We have to work on that full time.
Helene, I unmuted you. Or unmute yourself
I am, yeah.
and ask your question, please.
There is often a linguistic issue that seems to prevent Jews in the diaspora in the Galut from really understanding the world as you do, as you see it, as you live it. I think part of the problem is that Israelis continue to use language and terminology that undermines our own connection. Is there any effort being made to stop Israelis from using publicly terms like West Bank, East Jerusalem? There's probably 16 or 17 words that are repeatedly quoted.
Palestinian people.
Yeah, I call them UNRWA Arabs, but that's another story.
Okay. I'll tell you, it's very hard to change people's. I mean, the national camp talks the talk, meaning uses the correct words. You're talking about people on the left who will not change their mind and who are on purpose using those. I think that they're doing much more dangerous things than just using the wrong words. They are inciting against the Jews of Judea and Samaria. This whole campaign about the so-called settler violence. Let's take that as an example, right? This is a complete
Another
lie.
word I don't want to use also, but
Well, in Hebrew, the word, yes, that's another word that in English is a problem. I always say in Hebrew, the word to describe those who live in Judea and Samaria is mitnachalim. Mitnachalim is a word, every Hebrew word has a root. The root of mitnachalim is nachala, which means inheritance. So it's a beautiful word in Hebrew, saying mitnachalim means the inheritors of the land. It was, of course, mistranslated as settlers. Settlers gives you the impression, oh, yeah, they took somebody else's land, right? It's on purpose. So in English, the word mitnachalim is inheritors of the land, not settlers. But I'm talking now about a specific thing that has started here and that is being paid for by a lot of anti-Israeli organizations abroad, the so-called settler violence. And it's important that you guys know what is going on about that. And because sometimes you can say, oh, wow, maybe there's so many, official documents showing, or you can even go on YouTube, I was told, and you see Jews who, with a kippah on, etc., who seemingly, according to what you see on the video, that they're attacking Arabs, those so poor Arabs, right? So I want to tell you what really is going on. And it's a very good example is what happened last week here in this area. Last week, the army was called by Arabs somewhere not far from in the southern Hebron Hills, that violent settlers came and stole many sheep of this Arab shepherd and even killed him. And of course, the entire army flew down to the area there to check what was going on. And after some time, they found out it was complete fake. It never happened. Hollywood. So that is an extreme example of something that never ever happened. But you'll say, wait a minute. There you don't have any videos because it never happened. What about the videos of Jews who seemingly are attacking, or it looks like they're attacking Arabs? So you have to know what's going on. And I always like to give an example. Yehudit and I were interviewed 2 days ago for a special film they're making 20 years to Gush Katif. Can you imagine? It's 20 years. And the interviewer is a leftist, but somebody who you saw. She already, after October 7th, has different feelings, and she's bewildered by what happened on October 7th, and it shook her whole world. And she started asking many questions. And she says, maybe you guys are right to be against Oslo, etc. But what about settler violence? So I asked her, I said, you have a house? Yeah. You have a garden? Yeah. Imagine assailants, I didn't say Arabs, assailants or come to your house and start trespassing in your garden, and they break down your front door and the window, and they start to go into your kitchen to take over your house or to take you out of your house or to steal, whatever. What do you do? I call the police. I said, okay. And what happens if the police doesn't come? What do you do? No, that can't be no, the situation is that the police doesn't come. What do? You just stand by there and you say, okay, well, there's nothing I can do. Or so, no, I'll call my husband, I'll call my son, and we'll fight back. Ah, that's very nice. I'm not going to let them take over my kitchen, right? I said, okay. And what if when you fight back or when you push them and you succeed in pushing them out of the window? Let's say something, you're strong enough and you push them out of your window. He says, okay, where are you getting to? I said, well, what if I come with my camera and I film only the few seconds of you throwing that assailant out of your window, and I show it to the whole world. Her name doesn't matter, I'll change her name, I'll say her name, and I say, Sarah is a violent woman who she got the point. It says, whatever you see on video is instances of Arabs who came to areas that belonged to Jews, whether it was to uproot Jewish trees, whether it was to trespass, whether it was to attack Jewish shepherds. And sometimes, yes, it's the case of when a dog bites a man, it doesn't make the news. But when the man bites the dog, it makes the news. Yes, it's not settler violence. It's Jewish self-defense. And it has been caught on camera by those anarchists who have been ordered to create provocations and to film the Jews at a specific time when the Jews defend themselves and spread it to the world as if it's violence. So no, there is no there's no settler violence. There's no Jewish terror. There is Jewish self-defense to keep their homeland.
Excellent response. Tamar Edelstein.
If I can add one more thing, by
sure.
the way, when they give the numbers of the so-called settler violence, I think it's Regavim, and they must get the credit. They looked at all the instances. There's like a big list of so-called settler violence. Do you know that among that list is every time Jews go up on Har Bayit, on the Temple Mount, that's part of the settler violence. Every time the army responds to Arab attacking Jews, let's say Arabs threw stones and the army came and dispersed a Palestinian, an Arab demonstration, it's also settler violence. So that's in addition to what I said before, that is the so-called fake settler violence. Any Jew that breathes in Eretz Yisrael is considered by the anti-Semites settler violence.
Okay. So this is not quite a follow-up to that question, but Tamar Edelstein has asked, could you please comment on Defense Minister Katz's plan to resume humanitarian aid to Gaza and Foreign Minister Smotrich's insistence that the military deliver it? And I understand there's been some pushback on that.
We have to strengthen Minister Smotrich and Minister Ben-Gvir to stand firm, and they do, and to make sure that this government will not give humanitarian aid. I think that Itamar Ben-Gvir said it the best. What is this debate about who's going to give them humanitarian aid? Nothing should be given to them until we get all our hostages back, and that should be the policy. And also Minister Smotrich and also Itamar Ben-Gvir are doing everything to prevent. You have to understand, the government is under incredible pressure from many different issues going on here in Israel. And we know that Minister Smotrich even threatened he said yesterday, if humanitarian aid is going to go to Hamas, this government has no right to exist. And we agree with that. And we hope that that's not going to happen. This government should not fall and cannot fall. This government should apply sovereignty. And therefore the answer, Tamar, I can't see you because I wish you would tell me how I can see everybody on, but is there a
I
button that
think
I could see?
if you go up to the right-hand corner and you press view,
View, I don't see. I don't see 5 people here. But
Okay.
anyway,
but if you go to
I'll do that
gallery,
later.
there's a
Oh, yeah,
gallery
okay,
view
anyway.
instead of a
So
speaker
Tamara, I
view.
don't see you now. The answer is that we have to strengthen them to stand firm and that no humanitarian aid should be given there. And that's my answer. Let me see if I can do
Okay.
this.
The button is on
Oh, I see.
the top.
Okay.
There's one, you see
Yeah.
like 9 little dots all together.
More, hold on, let me see. No, records,
So
reset,
next
capture.
to
No,
the
I see
gallery on top, you should see 4 buttons.
okay, view.
So
Right.
there should be,
Gallery. Should I do gallery?
You can
Yeah.
do gallery and you'll see a lot more people.
Wow, I see you now.
Yes.
Okay,
Okay.
I see many people. Susan, Alexis, David. Okay, I see you all. And Stacy, how are you? Okay.
Everyone's looking forward to seeing you. There are so many good comments. I'm looking for questions. I saw in today's news, that
Robin Ticker, how
Hamas-
are you? Carol, I'm sorry, I have to say
That's
how
okay.
you
Keep going.
I
Keep
can say
going.
hi to everybody. Okay, now I see you. Okay, now I finally see all of you. I can't mention all of you, but I'm saying hi to all of you. Okay, go for it.
If you'd like, Nadia, when we finish with the recording, we can turn the recording off and we can have some interaction. Okay? So I saw in the news today that Abbas is saying that if the Gazans are relocating, that the only place they can relocate to is Israel, and they will go back to their cities of their origin. Can you comment on that?
Yeah, I really thank him for that. A very excellent comment because sometimes he's faking to be somebody moderate. And you know what? Mahmoud Abbas is more dangerous than Hamas because people fall into the trap that he's a so-called moderate. The guy is a Holocaust denier. He is compensating those who murder Jews. The PA is like Hamas, and the tragedy is that the government, even this government of Israel, still has some kind of interaction with the PA. So the more he says such comments, the more people will realize that we have to treat Abu Mazen the same way Nasrallah was treated, and the same way whatever his name was from Hamas was the leader there. I have a blackout now.
Sinwar.
Sinwar, thank you. He is no different than them, and sentences like that he said just help us to remind us what a terrorist he is.
So Jews in the diaspora, the Stephen Schechter this question is, as for Jews in the diaspora, they should be demonstrating and calling for Jewish sovereignty in Gaza, Judea, and Samaria. They should be teaching Krav Maga in Jewish schools, and they should be organizing Jewish self-defense groups to counter university pogroms. How important do you think the goings on in America are, and how do they reflect in Israel? Are they important to Israelis? Is it or is it something that completely separate?
You're talking about what happens at the universities,
On the universities,
campuses,
and the lack of response, the lack of defense.
I thought that now, and I thought that now under the Trump administration, that campuses that behave like that are being punished, whether it's financially or things like that. So that's already something that is good. Listen, in the end, there is anti-Semitism, and I mean, my gut answer was, come on, aliyah. Because in the end, You can't expect anything from in Chutz La'aretz. That's what happens. But obviously, till you make aliyah, where it would be much better if we would have another million Jews here. It would help the cause. It will help sovereignty. It will help to be strong. And also, listen, I'm always very careful on that topic, but I'll be very upfront. There's no real future in Chutz La'aretz for the children, for Jewish children, etc. It has to be here. But till you all come on aliyah, till everybody comes on aliyah, it would be very good that, first of all, the question was divided in two. First of all, should we demonstrate for sovereignty? Yes, whenever you have Israeli ministers, the Israeli embassy, any Israeli politicians coming to you, talk about sovereignty. Tell them, what about Israeli sovereignty? About the campuses, etc. Obviously, I believe in self-defense. Jews have to learn how to defend themselves. And that will be a good preparation for when you come on Aliyah too.
Absolutely.
Because here we need to know self-defense.
Yeah, I heard somebody saying that that Israel could learn from our Second Amendment, that apparently it's not as easy to get a gun in Israel. Is that the case?
With Itamar Ben-Gvir, he's done a lot of changes to allow more people to get a gun, but obviously it is not as easy as in America. That is true.
Okay. Do we have some more questions? If you can raise your hand.
There's 64 people here. I hope to see all of you in Israel with Judy on your trip.
Well, many of the people in this audience will be with me. We have a nice size.
I don't see Leon. Where's Leon?
Actually, Leon is planning to spend just the day with us when we're visiting you.
Oh, great.
I don't see him in this audience either.
Okay.
I guess he must be out in the field.
Yeah, that's okay.
So
no, listen now, and to sum up, AFSI, you guys, when I speak to you, it's like speaking to family. I don't speak to people who need explanations. You are part of the sovereignty movement. You are part of sovereignty. You are part of Eretz Yisrael. What needs to be done now is to really do hasbara to explain, because a lot of people don't understand what's going to be different with sovereignty. Like, you have Jewish communities, isn't that enough? And now you also have the amazing thing that happened, and we went on a tour a few weeks ago, the new farms. I assume that you're going to also visit farms in Judea and Samaria. For the past 2 years, young couples have received the okay to, is also with Smotrich, thanks to Smotrich, Minister Smotrich, who has been really doing a revolution in Judea and Samaria. He calls it sovereignty bashetach, meaning de facto sovereignty. He's now, before we can have the actual sovereignty, at least let's try to have as much sovereignty on the land itself. And he has been promoting a lot of farms. And, you have a Jewish community, let's say that of 500 families, and they basically are on X dunams or hectares. When you have two couples, they have X times 10 hectares that they guard with shepherds, with their sheep, etc. So it's a very uplifting thing to see how you do that. Why did I say that? Oh, I just want to say that is sovereignty on the ground. But you as activists, you know how to get to the politicians. And when you are here in Israel, or when you even, I guess you can even have all their phone numbers, pressure. Promote sovereignty. Have an AFSI sign up and send it to all the ministers. They listen to you. You're an important organization, and they take you, when they get a letter signed by X dozens of AFSI members, it has an impact. And now we're working in the Knesset, we're signing up Knesset members. If after when we sign them up, all of a sudden they see a letter by AFSI also and by others, everything helps. So we hope you do that, and I know you will do that, and you do that. Another important thing I wanted to say is, some people ask us, if sovereignty is not applied on all of Judea and Samaria at once, what's going to happen? That's a very important question. because that's what is being talked about behind the scenes. You don't expect to have sovereignty over Shem right away, etc. It's a very big question that is being discussed, and I'm not going to give an exact map of what should be done, but somebody said it very well. It has to be on the maximum territory as possible. Now, first of all, the axioma is, in the end, sovereignty has to be from the river to the sea, all over Judea and Samaria and the Jordan Valley. But if it has to be done in 1 or 2 stages, then we have to make sure that we don't do it on the following things. We do not do it only on settlement blocks. This is a term that many people are using. Let's do it on the settlement blocks first. No, because if you do it on the settlement blocks, it's as if, you know what the settlement blocks are. Gush Etzion, Male Adumim. You basically are mafkir. You basically abandon the small communities like Elon More, etc. So that's a big no-no. If people talk to you, oh, let's do sovereignty of... No, that's not good. We should do much more than that. And also, we have to stop talking A, B, and C. Helene, you spoke about language that's being talked about. We have to start. There is no A, B, and C. What is this invention? It's an Oslo term. We have to erase all the Oslo terminology. Not only C belongs to the Jewish people, A, B, and C is all of us. Now, A and B, as you know, according to Oslo, that's where the Arab communities, the Arab villages are, the Arab, they live in A and B. But also in A and B, there are state lands. All those empty state lands where they didn't yet build Arab houses, that should also be under Israeli sovereignty. Meaning the sovereignty has to be, we have to erase the Oslo terminology. We cannot talk about settlement blocks. We have to, somebody suggested also that maybe we should call it sovereignty over the greater Jerusalem, which will include Gush Etzion, Male Adumim, the entire Benjamin area, and to turn Jerusalem into the greater Jerusalem, which is a very big must. What does it mean to turn Jerusalem into greater Jerusalem? Today, there's a very big problem about Jerusalem. I don't know if you know, but the Arab population in Jerusalem is a threat to the Jewish majority. It is 40-60. If God forbid, today they do not vote, they are allowed to vote in the municipal elections. And luckily, they don't vote, not too many of them vote. If God forbid we have a situation where all of them would vote, who knows what, God forbid, could happen, and an Arab mayor. In order to prevent that from happening, we need more Jews who become Jerusalem residents, Jerusalem, written down as Jerusalemized. How do you do that? You add Gush Etzion, you add the Jewish communities of Gush Etzion, and you add the Binyamin, you make Jerusalem greater. First of all, make Jerusalem great again. Jerusalem should be greater because it's our capital. So the idea is, let's apply sovereignty over greater Jerusalem, over the Jordan Valley. The Jordan Valley is 30% of all of Judea and Samaria. And then about the Ariel block. The Ariel block, that's not a settlement block, it's the Ariel, it's Gush Ariel, it includes Elon More, it includes all the small communities also. I'm not giving a plan here, but I'm just saying that in the end, when we will apply sovereignty, we'll have to go down to the tachlis. You know what tachlis is? We'll go down to the nitty-gritty of how it has to be done. I wish we could do it with a Harry Potter wand and do it right away on everything and immediately relocate all the Arabs. But we also, our head is always in ideology, but we have to have our feet also on the ground. I am so happy that former ambassador David Friedman, in his book, admitted that those who opposed the deal of the century at the time, which we were part of those who opposed the deal of the century, because one part of the deal of the century was great, 30% sovereignty over Jordan Valley, etc., but it was attached to something else, to 70% of a Palestinian state. And we opposed that. We lost quite a few friends at the time who afterwards admitted that it was a mistake. So when a sovereignty will be applied, it will have to be, number one, with no Palestinian state, meaning we cannot go back to the deal of the century. Sovereignty, yes, no Palestinian state, no more Oslo terminology, no A, B, and C. Sovereignty over as much land that we can right away. Please God, we will do and succeed.
Thank you again, Nadia, for being with us today. I'm going to change the atmosphere now, and so the recording will end.